Morning, guys. Today I just want to do part one of the two-part vlog of my recent tattoo progress. I was pretty happy with how the last one came out, so I thought I'd continue that way for the next one, or maybe even the next few, showing off kind of like the fresh work versus how it healed. Obviously, I'm not going to be waiting the full month that it seems to take for black on black to heal fully, and show fully. As for example, these spider eyes are darker now and more healed than they were at the tail end of the last video I did on them, where I showed them off healed. They were still a little milky, and they still even have a bit of a shine you can see in the light, but they're darker again than they were at the end of that two-part vlog that I did last time. So I'm not going to do month in between fresh and healed, but I will do say day 1 and then maybe day 7 kind of thing, day 8. So yeah, these are looking great. They're almost as dark as they were fresh now, and I expect them to get even darker. We're getting into the long part of the tattoo process again, the bodysuit process. Kind of what happens anytime you set up for a bodysuit. I'll get into this greater length in another video sometime. But you map a lot of stuff out at first, and then once you start shading things in and kind of working on the detail of them, the progress rate seems to slow down a little bit. Even though it's not. It's just, you don't get say these spider eyes were a bit of an immediate reward. Well, now, where we're shading in some of the tentacles and stuff, it's more like doing the layups or doing your grinding to get to where you're going. And so you don't get as much immediate gratification. It's not going to make that instant snapshot kind of thing. But we were able to get one tentacle finished, and I'll show it off. So even you can still see I'm a little bit bloated even from the trauma. When anytime you get something done on your stomach or your ribs, you tend to swell in that area. Something to be mindful of. But yes, we got one of the biggest tentacles out of the way, and I think that having done one now, we'll get moving a little bit quicker, but kind of figuring it out as you go for the first one, and maybe even the first few, figuring out how to shade it and what's going to work best. There was a lot of changes midway. We're not midway, but a couple minutes in kind of thing, figuring out what we want to do with it. But yeah, it's really lifelike, super 3D, pops right out at you. All of these tentacles in here are going to be shaded similarly. So you see in between the teeth, you're going to have solid black to make the teeth pop. And then in the teeth themselves, you can see we did lines. I don't know if it shows it off, but you can see we did line shading in the teeth. And then all throughout the tentacles themselves are dot shaded. And a little bit of line shading as well to bring them to life. And then the tentacles will fade out. Now, in the spaces in between the tentacles, we'll be filling with other things. But I said in the last video, or the spider eye video, that I thought we'd be working on my belly button kind of thing. But I sat down ready for the belly button and creating some more line work and stuff like that. And Rick's idea changed that minute kind of thing. Because even though I was set up for that, he posited the idea of maybe we should shade what we've got here and get that done, because as we're working on this more, both of us are coming up with more and more ideas. So maybe see what the shading looks like, get what we've got done or got lined out, shaded first, then move on, because the idea for the belly button area has already even changed. I thought we were just going to do a tentacle kind of crawling out of my belly button or emerging from my belly button, but we're actually going to make that part of a bigger kind of area of my stomach. We're going to have a tentacle kind of wrap in and around and come through the belly button, just to use the area better. So we've gotten to a point now where we have a lot mapped out already, and rather than adding more before we know what we're doing completely, we want to get some of this finished up. So, but in saying that, this was a little over 3 hours to do this tentacle, the shading. So these are a big job. There's a lot in there. Anytime you're dot shading something, it does take quite a while. So it's a little bit, what's the word I want to say? Deceptive. It's a little deceptive how long it actually takes to do that. But in terms of the pain of it, I find dot shading really easy. The solid black on the rib there with the smaller mags was the most painful part of it. But overall, you could give me any pain you want for this process and I'll take it gladly, because this is really, I would say I'm having the most fun I've ever had in all of my tattoo work doing this stuff. So if you made it hurt twice as much, I'm still going to sit there with a smile on my face like a kid on Christmas at just the sheer possibility and all the learning that's happening during this. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this part up, and I'll see you again soon for part 2. All right, back for the second half of this tattoo progress update. And so I'll get right to it. This is peeled now. As I said, there's probably, still some darker it will go. But overall, it's healed about the same as it was put in. You can see it has that same really, really dark that we have in the spider eyes, or the outer edge of this eye, as opposed to the 27 mag blackout. So you can see the difference in a big area of black shaded with a 27 mag versus what you can do with dots and smaller needle groupings, and how that lasts in the aftermath is quite the stark difference. I don't know the science on why it is, but things shaded with bigger mags just don't stay as dark. Not for as long anyway. That being said, my blackouts are quite dark. It's not as dark as, like, that eye is clearly darker than that shoulder. So, having done this first tentacle, you can see how the rest of it's going to be shaded too. It is, in the foreseeable future, fair to imagine that most of my torso will be looking more like this than this, in terms of the shading, the darkness, and the texture. I still am unsure about every single facet of the torso. Only know that everything is going to work off of the eye and tentacles. And I have inspiration for where we're going next, but getting there is going to be piece by piece. And that's where now I would like to think that we're in the long part of the tattoo journey again. Sort of like I said earlier, layups or doing the grinding. We're in the very workman-like stage of this. But it is nice to see that what we're asking for from the tattoos is staying. There so far hasn't been any result that we've gone after with this black on black that we haven't achieved. We knew certain things going in. We knew we can't really shade through technical, through typical, means. Like, we can't achieve black and gray shading. But we can achieve line shading and dot shading and different forms of shading. So there's a lot of outside the box thinking, and there's still a lot more of that to come. But what's great is seeing a week later, 6 months later, nearly, that this stuff is all healing. Like that rose doesn't look any worse than it did after it first healed. It hasn't changed at all. None of this stuff is aging the way people would expect. Still, anytime, and part of why I don't like posting this stuff on Instagram and why I'm really moving more towards a YouTube frame of mind from a content standpoint. Is like, you post this on Instagram and they're gonna think that that's day one, and that won't be there tomorrow. It's just over and over again. That's all you hear is, oh well, that's gonna fall out right away. Those eyes are gone tomorrow. Like, these black eyes, they're not gonna stay. And the other problem is, they think that this is the finished product too. They just see some lines on my torso and they're like, that's it? That's all you can do? Bah! It's like, no, that's not all you can do. There's going to be a lot more. If you look at me and you think that that's the end, your brain's not working that well. Like, there's clearly going to be more. I've said this ad nauseum, that there's no point in the near future when this is the end of it. I mean, eventually I'm sure I will have had my fill, but clearly I have ambitious plans for the future. And it's going to be really, really interesting to watch all of these things kind of come together. I will get back to this real quick. Within these tentacles, there's going to be some white highlights too. I'm sure even just looking, you can tell exactly where they're going to be. But in these teeth, the parts that aren't line shaded, there's going to be highlights. Throughout these tentacles, there's going to be white highlights in the areas that weren't shaded black. So not only are we going to have the old black, the new black, like the deep black, the dot shading and the line shading, we're going to have white ink highlights and everything too. No, obviously not everywhere, but there'll be white ink highlights kind of used sporadically to add even more dimension. Like these spots here on the eyes are going to be done in white. And that's probably coming up fairly soon. I won't speculate as to when, because Rick may decide that he wants to do that this next session. He had a cancellation this week, so I'm actually in as of the day. I will be in for more in 2 days. So, and then I've got another appointment in 9 days. So, in a fairly short period of time, we're going to be hacking away at this. I think within a month to a month and a half, we'll have most of what we started finished, and then it's building things together and adding more. And this is where I say, like, this is the long road. The blackout went quicker. People got to see immediate progress. With this suit, you're seeing more how it was sort of with my first bodysuit, where you're almost like building the limbs of something. It takes time. The blackout did take time, but not as long as the first suit. And the third suit's going to probably take longer than both suits. May take as long as both suits put together in the end, to be honest. Just due to the complicated nature, first off, of working on skin that's been tattooed so many times. Second off, not being able to do conventional tattooing and use conventional methods. We have to think outside the box, and it's quite often, I'll probably say this a lot, but it's a little bit like tattooing with a magic wand now. A lot of the stuff we're doing, there's no one to compare with. There's no peer for this. We don't have anyone around us, me or my tattoo artist, to compare with for how things healed or how things were done or other examples to draw from. There really isn't much. So when you're out on the frontier like that, and when you're doing something that's from a North American standpoint at the very least, or at least in our area, this has never been done. So everything we're doing is deeply experimental, and all we have is what he did and how it healed, how I healed it, and how my skin did with it. For example, these eyes now have been done for 3 weeks? 3.5 weeks, and they're still in some stage of healing. You can still see the shine, so they're still getting darker. Like, they're now, right now, they're as dark as they were day one. And they're still going to get darker. There were some spots that I thought had dropped out on these that has actually come back. Like there were some spots that were a little bit mushy compared to other spots, and they've gotten more solid as time has gone on, not less. So this is a really strange kind of like, I know I've said it ad nauseum how interesting this is to me, and how different all of this is from anything else I've done, but there really is something new I'm learning every session and every week thereafter. And if anything, this stuff is looking better as time goes on. Like it's holding up. I think in contrast to the mag shaded blackout, it holds up over time so much better with those deep, thick lines and the dot shading, that the blackout will fade far quicker than the lines or the dots or any of the smaller mag shading. And so from there you get crazy amounts of contrast. Like, look at that hard line there. That's 6 months old, that line now. Because here we are almost in May, and this was originally lined in the beginning of December. So I got a feeling, and you can tell me if I'm wrong later, but I got a feeling that that line is going to be like that next year when I'm still showing this off. So yeah, it's interesting because so many people are saying what we're doing is impossible, and it's not. It's more people need to have a little bit of confidence, and sometimes just trying new things. You never know what's possible until you try. If it doesn't work, what's the worst that happened? You paid a little bit of money and you sat through a little bit of pain. That's really it. But so far, not one of these things hasn't worked. It's all worked. The white ink has worked. The white ink is looking the same. So, and that's not solid white. That's shaded white. That's not even solid white. We didn't even pack that solid. And look how white that is. If we packed that solid, it would be even lighter. Now, we're going to pack these highlights solid white, and it's going to pop these eyes even more. And I'm still going to get those same things. Like, oh my god, that's not going to stay though. Oh, that'll be gone in a week. Yeah, okay, sure, whatever. What are you going to say in 2 years when I'm still making Instagram post after Instagram post showing these things off? Oh, well, we'll see you in 20 years. I can't wait till you're green. That's one of my favorite comments. It's like people are using the cheapest tattoo inks they can find from the year 1750 or something. Tattoo inks don't really go green anymore. I don't want to dispel that myth or too heavily. There are some cheaper inks that go green still, or blue. Like, that can happen. But if you're using good quality ink and you're getting a good artist to do it, you're not going green. The green out is a myth. That's not going to happen. Not today. Sorry. If there's anyone out there watching that thinks that happens, or thinks it's funny that that's going to happen, guess again. That's not a thing. I could see going light blue. I could. The whole Smurf thing, I could see that happening, but not green. That's not a thing. So, no. I had a couple of stars on my chest, same artist did. They were as black as these eyes after 10 years. I had those done for 10 years, and they stayed as black as these eyes look right now. I have old pictures of them before I blacked them out at the start of 2019. And they're as black as they were the day I got them. They didn't go green. It was 10 years. So, anyway, that's just my little bit of rant about how these things heal and age, and taking on some of the broken notions that some, we'll say, boomers have, even though I'm a boomer myself, I guess, by some technicality. The old school mindset around tattooing is toxic and ridiculous and really needs a shake up. And if I can do my part to do anything about it, this is it. Making YouTube videos without a shirt on in my living room showing healed black on black tattoos. Anyway, hope you guys have enjoyed this vlog, and I will be making another one right away showing off the next tentacle / whatever else we get into. I'm pretty sure we're going to be doing the same thing we did this time on the other side. But I'll just give one more reveal of it, maybe a close-up. So you can see that nice dark rich black in there and all the shading and how we faded it out over here. And we can assume that we're going to do the same over here, 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 and these two. All right. I will talk to you guys later.